Hi, Pete Warden here from Next Level Wealth. I'm here today in an uncharacteristically hot Melbourne to the extent that I've actually had to come inside. Pretty hot out there. Now, the first thing you can't help but notice when you come to Melbourne these days is the sheer level of construction that's going on and the cranes on the skyline. Now, if you think back to 2012 when there was very little happening, but then we've had a period of lower interest rates, easier credit, rising housing prices, and then a surfeit of Chinese buyers that came out of nowhere. Now, today we've still got the low interest rates, but we have none of those other things. So that means we're at the peak of the construction cycle. Now, what you see at the peak of a construction cycle is full employment typically. So there's practically a job for anyone who wants one. And the other thing you see is congestion, because all of those new apartments bring new people and they tend to bring new vehicles. But the AIG construction survey today showed that apartment building is now contracting very rapidly, and that means we've come to the end of the construction cycle. Now, it's important to remember that it doesn't matter whether you're talking about commodities or construction, you always see these summer and winter seasons. It's inevitable. And as much as central banks may try to smooth the cycles, you see the same thing with the business cycle, with the economy, with stock markets. So certainly when it comes to construction, what you see is demand rises and then prices rise, and then you see this big supply response until prices cool again. Now, it's worth remembering that the Labour Party has proposed some changes to negative gearing to funnel investors into new apartments, creating a bit of a two-tier market. Now, theoretically, this might see some developers building low-grade apartment stock specifically targeted at investors. So you'd be thinking about maybe small 60 square metre apartments on busy main roads and so on. But it's not really the type of stuff that people really want to buy to live in. And we've got more than 40 years of figures to show that what's a net negative for housing demand will almost certainly not be able to arrest the downturn in construction. So for years we've been talking about overbuilding and oversupply, but now we're going into the other parts of the cycle. And over the next few years we'll be starting to talk about underbuilding again, because we don't have the Chinese buyers anymore and prices have been easing. So really three things to think about today. Firstly, to remember that we always go through these summer and winter seasons. It's inevitable. Secondly, the construction cycle is now contracting. And the third thing to think about is Labour's negative gearing policy proposals. And now if you look at the composition of the Senate, some of the members are in favour of reform. Some are against, most likely property owners, I would have thought. And some are actually in favour of a cap. So you might even see a watered down version of the reforms. And if you haven't checked it out already, check out my website below, because I've done a more detailed workshop on negative gearing. So that's it for today. Cheers.